Hey, what's up, y'all, and welcome to Two Beers of the Band podcast. My name is Harkos. I just edit everything around here, but you are tuned in right here, right now to part 2 of the great conversation with Kalvonix right here on Two Beers of the Band podcast. Now, if you did not see part 1, make sure you pause right now, go back and check out part 1, and then come on back. All right, you're back? All right, let's go ahead and get into part 2 right here with Kalvonix on Two Beers of the Band podcast.
It does, and I do recall Harkos saying it's like, oh, you know, it's finally, in one of your songs, you finally get the girl at the end.
Oh, yeah. The
kitchen, that's how we do kill a beat, then stay on the move, that's it, that's them. Kalvonix big love friends till the end, kill tracks cause of Eminem, yeah. Don't act like you don't feel that vibe, sexy lady, those hips don't lie, have I got you into? Sexy lady, those hips don't lie, it's you that I'm into.
What is the one thing or a few things that people aren't going to learn about you through your music, through your videos, through your social media?
I think what we've been talking about already, in the sense of it takes a lot of energy and a lot of kind of coaching myself and finding way, like throughout the years, I found ways to kind of calm myself down. So like I'm a big meditator. I meditate a lot. I meditate at least once a day, if not more. It takes a lot of just courage to not only put your thoughts to a beat, but then release that to the world. And I think a lot of people kind of forget that. It's like consumers now, especially because, like I said, we have a mini computer in our hand. It's so easy. Like we used to wait for an album to come out, and then you have to wait in line at the store, and then you have to buy the album, right? It was like an actual journey. Now, when the album's out at midnight, you can hear the whole album without downloading, without waiting, without anything. So I think in our era of instant gratification due to social media, due to our phones, people forget all the work that goes into what not only a musician does, but what anybody does behind the scenes. So I just want every fan to know that what I do and what everybody that wants to do this, they put in a lot of work. But the fact that I'm doing it and you see the results just in real time with my improvement and my views and everything, I just want them to feel empowered, and I hope they can feel that whether they want to be a musician too, or whether they want to take up whatever passion it is, I hope they can see the energy I put in and put that type of energy towards what they want to do. At the end of the day, that's the main thing I want a listener to take away. I hope they can just feel that through my music, I'm proof that whether you have whatever adversity you have, you can work through it and you can become what you want to become.
So do you produce your own beats? From writing a song to the video on YouTube, what do you do to make that happen? What is you?
For sure.
That's weird. That's good. But you write the lyrics. Do you produce the beats? Just walk us through the whole process.
For sure. So more than anything, I'm the writer. So everything that I have said in a song has been written by me. All the ideas are my ideas. Any video concepts, like if there's a story in the video that's coming directly from my head, I've written it down and I've brought it to life, whether it's acting it out. But I will be the first to, like, I used to kind of be a little shy about it, but I'll be the first to admit, no, I don't produce my beats. I've tried. I did put myself through a course and I tried to learn how to produce. I slowly learned that it's just not my thing. It's not my forte. And not necessarily that I can't do it. I just feel like that's not where my interest lies. So I don't find myself kind of stimulated when I'm making beats. Um, so I kind of stepped away from that. And so the beats that you hear on all my albums, I have thankfully just by doing this so much and as we talked about already, reaching out to different people and not being afraid to reach out, I've made friends with multiple producers from around the world, whether they're local or they're in Poland, like I mentioned. Um, I have a lot of producers who regularly send me beats when they, complete like a beat pack. They'll be like, "Hey, because we've worked together in the past, like, I'm just gonna let you hear these 4 new beats I just did. Like, do you want these? Because if you don't, I'll give them to someone else." Like, I've become that guy where it's like they check with me first before selling it to somebody else, which means a lot. I think it really just shows that I've made a lot of good connections. So the beats is not, yeah, it's not my creation, but um, I think where the writer is in me, it's like my job is to take the beat and then bring it to life further by putting those words over it and finding those pockets. As a rapper, that's the most important thing, finding those pockets where you can like fit in with the beat. So I like to think of it as like actually Jay-Z in an interview with Oprah many years ago had a good example where he's like, when you're a rapper, your voice is like the hi-hat, or it can be like the drum line, or it can go with the bass line. Like I think that's how I see myself. You have to find a way to become an instrument with the beat, and find a way to flow. So that's that part. For the videos, like I said, I think Jeff and Diego have been my two main go-tos that I work with for videos, like filming. And then the editing itself, Jeff is the mastermind behind the effects and everything. But I've been working with him for many 9 years now, that I've kind of slowly started to pick up on a few things, and it's much more collaborative now when we do a video together. Like we'll be at the computer together and we'll slowly kind of work our way through posting in a certain effect at a certain part of the video. So I'd like to think of it as like it's very much a collaboration with when it comes to the video portion.
So do you see your videos as small movies? Because
Definitely.
you do enjoy movies, and I can see that. I really
Yeah.
can, because there is some drama in
Right.
the videos that you produce or the videos you release. And I enjoy
Yeah.
that, and that keeps me coming back when the next one comes out. Boom, I want to see it as soon as it pops up, on YouTube.
Right.
So I I enjoy that, and I can actually see that in those videos now. And now when I watch those videos, I'm going to keep that in the back of my mind, and
Awesome.
I'm going to look a little bit deeper into the videos now. So I
Nice.
appreciate
Awesome.
you saying that.
Yeah, no, that's amazing. I'm really excited for that because with the theme of that and with the theme of always trying to top myself and challenge myself too is important. Like I never want to be content and just creating for the sake of creating. I always want to be stimulated. And the thing that I'm working on now is actually one of the um I guess phrases, so to speak, on my last album especially is a lot of people, yes, they love the rapping, but they've really complimented me on my ability to write a catchy hook. They think that my melodies are underrated. Like beyond the rapping, I'm able to really create something catchy that gets stuck in your head. And so I've really been wanting to kind of incorporate more melody in the music I'm making. And once again, this goes back to the movies because movies is such a passion of mine. I've always had this deep admiration for just nostalgia, and particularly 90s and 80s nostalgia. Like I miss thinking back to my cousins in the early 90s, watching them as teenagers, like my older cousins. It just seems like such a cool time to be alive and be a kid. And so my next album that I'm working on, it's called Mr. Nostalgia, and it'll be my first album where I am not rapping at all. I'm fully singing. It's gonna be my first uh it's a singing synthwave album, so it's gonna be kind of like 80s inspired.
Right.
I'm really excited for that.
Okay. What about videos coming out for that album?
Yeah, we already have one that's being planned as we speak. I actually just before I connected with you, I was talking with Jeff and a few people involved that are going to be in that video. Um, I I think because the 80s aesthetic of like 80s pop music is already so rich with just emotion and culture, it's going to be very easy to put together videos, and I have tons of ideas already on particular songs as I'm completing them. So I'm really excited. I think this album is gonna show a completely different side to Kalvonix that people haven't seen yet.
So it's going to be an 80s themed album. Are you going to use the same clothing, things of that nature that would have been in the videos way back then? Or are you going to put a artistic twist on the video?
Right. Yeah, those actually that's a really great question. Those are the things I'm actually playing with right now. So those are the conversations I'm having. Um I have kind of dipped my toes in it already in the sense of there is a song on YouTube right now. It's called 80s Baby, and that was from my 2024 album. Um, and literally in that video, it's the aesthetic is fully 80s. All the effects are very 80s. So at the very end, when it's about me basically trying to get a girl in a tattoo shop. And at the end of the video, once the girl gives me her number on a piece of paper, I like put my fist in the air and then it's a freeze frame like the 80s, like the Breakfast Club. So I've already played with that already and I love it's one of my most like talked about videos for sure. So I think doing a whole album of that kind of thing is gonna be really fun. And once again, like I said, it's challenging myself too and keeping it interesting because I'm finding that having to write a full song where I'm not relying on rapping, obviously, because rapping is my foundation, I'm so used to writing like raps. So having to focus less on that and put my mind to like, okay, how can I make this song sound good and this idea sound good? But I'm singing it instead of rapping. The delivery is completely different. The way I have to write is different. So, I think everything from how I'm gonna look in the videos as well as how I sound is gonna be very different once everything is realized.
Do you enjoy the challenge of changing up the way you deliver music?
Yeah, for sure. It's risky because I know that if you hear any of my albums, especially my last three, you'll realize right away once you listen to it like front to back. There's a lot of different styles on it. Like there's pop songs, there's like rap heavy songs, sometimes there's rock influence. So I do borrow from a lot of genres and I try to give my own spin on different genres, but I've always been too afraid till now to really just kind of go for it fully and take out the rap fully for a second and see if I can do this. And so Mm, I think that's another thing that I enjoy the most about being a musician is your ability to experiment. And the experiment might not work, but I hope it does. It's sounding really good to me right now. And the people that have heard it, I have a close circle of people that I let hear the music before it comes out. Um, I think what makes it really interesting is all of my friends have different tastes in music. So I find the reason why, not only because I love all kinds of music, but one of the reasons why my albums have been so eclectic in the different sounds is because I'm kind of unconsciously trying to cater to all of my different friends and have something for all of them. So there's some friends who are like, Calvin, you're good at rapping. Your rapping is awesome. And then some friends are like, I like your melodic stuff more, honestly. And like, I think you should do more of that. And I have polar opposite opinions coming at me. So, and I trust both of those friends equally. So it's always been really tough to kind of gauge, like, where do I go from here? So the reason why I decided now is the time to really just try a different thing and see how it goes is I've been told countless times again, including Harkos, he's told me that above anything, he's realized how catchy my songs are. He finds that a lot of my songs get stuck in his head. So I'm very curious to see how this pop album is going to be received.
So, how many videos do you plan on making for that album?
It's pretty what's the word I'm looking for? Um, it's gonna be hard, but I hope to do a video for every song on the album. So I've made it's actually I have it on my phone right now, and I I was told like 2 albums ago, my album was 19 songs long, which is a long album, especially for an independent artist in an era where people don't listen to albums, right? So one of the pieces of feedback I got was like, yo man, like 19 songs, like people love your music, but like damn bro, it's a lot to sit through. And I was like, yeah, it's always hard for me to trim down. That's like the one thing that I've always struggled with. And then I was like, my last album, Ego, I was like, I'm gonna make this 13 songs. I'm gonna make it 13 songs. And then sure enough, by the time I was ready to put it out, it was 18 songs. So I couldn't get there. But
Bonus tracks.
yeah, bonus track, exactly. But I think honestly, because I'm experimenting into new ground with this next one, and it's not rap at all, and it's something different, and I'm trying this, it's giving me more confidence in being able to not only make it good and try to put my best work into it, but to also try to make it concise because I'm trying something new. And I don't want to overwhelm people. So I'm really trying to make this album 12 songs, and I hope to do a video for all 12.
Nice, nice.
Yeah.
Where you're at as far as for an indie artist, is it difficult to release music, to make albums, to make CDs, to put a finished product out? I mean, I'm based here in Nashville and we're Music City, USA, so it's easier for indie artists to release music.
Mm-hmm.
Now, it is expensive, but you're not here. You're not located where everything is accessible. So
Right.
as an indie artist outside of Nashville, how
Yeah.
difficult is it to release an album?
Um, I think thankfully, especially now, like I said, I've realized because of streaming and my first album that came out on streaming was in 2018. So since 2018, I've only seen a rise in the reception of my music because streaming has allowed me to reach people in Mexico. Um, so I think I've been lucky enough where we have not only have I made a lot of connections just reaching out to whether it's producers or video directors, and then you have distribution platforms like DistroKid and TuneCore, and yes, they all have their pros and cons, and as you said, it can be expensive. But I think I've slowly but surely kind of gotten to the habit of knowing how I'm spending and being careful with where I'm putting my money towards, whether it's putting an album out or to a video. Thankfully, because I've been able to put in all this work, my streaming numbers, they're not at a place where, like, as we mentioned, I can live solely off music, but it is a place where I have steady enough money coming in where I've basically made a deal with myself that all the money that comes in from streaming, I'm gonna put back into my music. So I always have that saved in, in a certain area, and I have that ready for whenever I'm ready to put a project out. So with that, I think because of all the work I've put in, it's relatively been easy for me, thankfully. Um, I think you just got to be resourceful, and as we talked about already, not being afraid to reach out if you have questions. So reach out to people who are doing it as well and get their experiences. I think, as you mentioned, there's a lot of artists who maybe aren't as willing to be as social as I am. So it might be harder for them because they don't want to reach out, or maybe it feels like they should know this already because it's like, YouTube is at our fingertips where we could search anything, right? But I guess because I need more help with mundane things like I need help reaching the hot plate out of the microwave because I'm on crutches. I need help carrying heavy books because I'm on crutches. Because I've had to ask for help all my life because of my disability. I've never been afraid to ask for help for the things that I need help with. So it's been easy for me just because of who I am.
So do you think the money you spend on videos and the
Mhm.
time you spend on videos, is it worth it?
Yeah. Yes. I don't think every video gets the views that I want it to get. It's very much, there's videos that I feel are very underrated. But yes, I think for the most part it's all worth it because I'm now at a place in my life where I'm able to create music and I have enough money coming in where I can put that money back into my music. As long as I can do that and I'm able to create freely and do things on my own schedule, that's another thing that kind of like thinking about people being signed to labels. Like I've heard so many nightmare stories of a label holding an artist back. And like I said, I never want to feel that way with my music. I like to have that full control as to when something goes out. And I think now we live in of course, there's definitely cons to streaming and having things so readily available at your fingertips. I can't deny that. But thankfully, because I'm a part of that, it's allowed me to kind of flourish in a way I don't think I otherwise would have if I was an artist making music in the 80s or 90s.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Well, I need to take a quick intermission and we'll be back in just a minute.
All right, y'all. I just wanted to hop in here and take a quick little break from this great episode. I know it's a great conversation they're having, but I promise we'll get back to it in just 1 second. For those of y'all who don't know, my name is Harkos, and I not only edit this episode, but every episode here on Two Beers with the Band podcast. But aside from that, I have my own podcast called Music Making Sense Podcast, where it's all about music marketing, branding, and how to have success. Real success as an independent artist. And every single week I'm dropping all kinds of great tips and tricks for independent artists that you can use to help you grow a real and sustainable fan base online, because I know a lot of independent artists struggle with the online growth, getting themselves out there and starting to get that attention that's going to help them get a real fan base. Okay, and I can help you out. Every single week I drop all kinds of tips and tricks on all the platforms, streaming and especially over on YouTube. So if you're an independent artist, or you happen to know some independent artists, such as all these great artists that come by Two Beers with the Band podcast, make sure you come check out Music Making Sense Podcast, available at musicmakingsensepod.com. That's where you can find all the links to all the streaming platforms, all the social media, and to the YouTube channel as well too. So musicmakingsensepod.com for any and everything Music Making Sense Pod. Make sure you come on by, check it out, learn some stuff, and help yourself grow a real and sustainable fan base with all the great knowledge that I put out on a regular basis. And of course, if you have any questions, y'all know how to reach me, musicmakingsensepod.com. Anyway, I'm gonna get back to this great conversation. Let y'all enjoy it. See y'all later.
All right, we're back from intermission, and Kalvonix, what one song that you've released describes you fully? Or which one of your songs would you say that describes you and who you really are?
Yes.
Or is that just
Right.
songs?
No, I have a song in mind. It's actually my favorite song I've done to date. And it's a song called Bedroom off my 2023 album, Little Do They Know. And the reason why I choose Bedroom, and I think it's my best song in my opinion, is because it incorporates all the core elements of who I am, meaning there is the humor in it. I have a lot of witty lines about my disability. Like, um, one of my lines is like, I can't run, but give me a beat and I'll run circles around the track. Like that kind of thing. It's very witty. Um, so I talk about my disability. The whole premise of the chorus is I started making music in my bedroom and I'm still making music in my bedroom. So it's kind of like poking fun at myself, very tongue in cheek, but it's something that I love to do. Like I said, I love having the freedom of being able to create whenever. So while yes, it is my bedroom, I like to think of my bedroom as a little studio. I have photos of things that inspire me on my wall. The one that's blurred out right now is actually Marilyn Monroe, so she's there on my wall, and I'm able to create whenever. So I love that. But I also think at the end of the day, it's like a inspiring kind of motivational track, which is a big part of what I want audiences to take away from in my music. So that's why I put Bedroom above a lot of my songs, just because I think it's like a fully actualized, like, who is Kalvonix? If I only had one song to show you, I would show you Bedroom.
Okay. What is your strongest attribute as far as music goes? Is it writing, singing, producing? What would you say is your strongest attribute?
Hmm. Um, I would say my writing. I think my writing is, I mean, I don't know if this has any, I mean, it probably does have direct relation, but I did graduate from university with a major in English. So I am a writer. I like to write. I don't like to read anymore because of my major though. So they kind of made me stop reading. But yeah. But I do think that's where my strong suit is. I think whether I've been taught not only just attending university and having to, like, you know how I said how if an instructor asked me a question, I would rap the answer. Well, that took me to, I'm not just gonna write about myself and my disability. I'm also gonna write about whatever I'm dealing with at the time. So if it's a short story, if I'm like in a children's lit class and I'm learning about like Charlotte's Web, if we're reading Charlotte's Web, I wrote a rap about Charlotte's Web. Like I was able to take things that I'm being presented with and turn it into a rap song. And so I think a lot of people have given me kudos to that. Like there was in, I believe it was 2020, I was part of an organization called Waterlution, where it was all about conserving water and water around the world and kind of just advocating for the importance of water. And I was hired to do their theme song. So I had to write a song about water. And some artists might hear that and be like, how the heck do you write a song about water? But I was able to do it. And I think that's just because I have a very vivid imagination in my mind. I think that just comes from being dramatic. And it's allowed me to really strengthen my writing and see no ends to what I can write about.
So if you could choose one thing to do for the rest of your life, rapping or writing, which one would it be?
Oh, that's tough. It's tough because it goes hand in hand for me, I think. But I guess it would have to be the writing. It would have to be the writing because, like I said, everything that you've ever heard me say on a song is something that I've written. It's personal to me and why I have such connection with the music. So if I couldn't write, but I was still able to rap, I wouldn't be rapping my words. And I think part of my connection to what I do and what I take such pride for is the fact that I write my own stuff. So I think behind the rapping, above everything, yeah, the writing is what's most important to me.
Okay. All right.
Mhm.
Strange little question, but what is your most useless talent?
What is my most useless talent? Oh, okay. I guess this is pretty useless. I can like I can quote random. I guess this could come from movies too, but it could also be like days of my life. Like I can remember the day that my mom said to it, like she yelled at the TV when we were watching Idle Hands, which is an obscure comedy in the 90s. When we were watching Idle Hands, she yelled, "That's so stupid." And I remember she was so angry because she was just flabbergasted at the stupidity of the film. For whatever reason, I remember that that was on March 4th, 1999. And I can remember dates of just random sayings or when somebody said something, and it's annoyed a lot of my friends because my friend will be like, I never said that. And I'm like, no, you actually said that on January 1st, 2000, whatever. And they'll get really annoyed and they'll swear that I'm lying and it's just in my head. But I have a very weird memory like that.
My neighbor does the exact same thing.
Really?
Unbelievable. He can talk about 10 years ago.
Yeah,
I
yeah,
remember the event, barely.
yeah,
I
yeah,
can say, yeah, the event happened. He can tell me the exact date,
yeah,
almost the exact time it happened. I'm like,
right.
yeah, okay, I didn't need all that, but now
Exactly, yeah, yeah.
stupid because I remember about that much of the event. He
Right,
remembers the entire event and the date, and it's just,
right,
how do you
yeah,
remember that, dude? But
yeah,
it's a talent that he has that
yeah,
there's no way that I could be able to do that. But
right,
it it's unique how people have certain talents and can do certain things, and obviously other people can't. But I think you saying that, it just kind of overwhelmed me because my neighbor is so good about that.
right,
He, again, he has proven me wrong on so many different occasions, just about
right,
everything. And we talk about music. He's a music buff, and we talk about all different kinds of music. And, I can say, I've never heard that song before. And he can, oh, well, I remember I played it for you on this date at this time. And I'm like,
right, right.
you're right, you probably did. And I just don't remember
Don't
it.
remember, yeah.
Make me
And
feel stupid twice. Appreciate that.
right, no, well, so yeah, that's why I think that this talent it's good, but it can also be painful in the sense of there's so many times where I feel like I'm the only one that remembers this specific memory. So then it gets in my mind, I'm thinking like, well, what use is that if I'm the only one that can remember it fondly and cherish it? So there's been times in my friendships where I'll like, for example, I'm still very close with my ex-girlfriend. She's one of my best friends now. And there's days that we've had that I cherish and I will tell her what happened and she'll be like, I don't remember that. If I'm being honest, I don't remember that. And it's like, what? Like that meant the world to me at the time. And it's there's actually a song called that I did called If I Die Now that's about that exact thing where I'm basically talking about the song. When you hear If I Die Now, you're thinking of like, oh, he's talking about death. But no, I'm talking about our memories die once we forget them. And so that event that took place that was very real, it's only real until everybody on earth forgets that memory. Where does that go? So it's been kind of a curse for me in the sense of I love the fact that I have such a vivid memory because I can use that once again to bring to my music, but it's also a curse because it makes me question myself sometimes where nobody remembers it but me. So it's like, is it me? Like, am I remembering it wrong? Um, or it makes me frustrated because if I get into an argument with my mom where I'm like, Mom, you said this to me on this day, and she's like, no, I did not. I have no recollection of that. And she gets frustrated because I'm telling her, no, this has happened. It's it can sort of be kind of, it's a weird thing to kind of relate it to, but it can be kind of lonely in the sense of like, I'm the only one remembering these memories that seemingly to the person I'm talking to don't exist, never happened. So it's useless in the sense of like, I love that I have it, but it's like, unless I can prove to that person 100% that I am right, it's like, what is the point of going further in this conversation? Because for them, it's never happened. So there's nothing, until I can prove it, there's nothing further I can do about it. You know what I mean?
Yeah. And I can see where that would be a hurdle in
Yeah.
music. And especially as a creative, as a writer, as
Right.
a producer, as an indie artist.
Mm-hmm.
What other hurdles have you had to conquer in music? Or what hurdles in general have you had to conquer in music?
Right. Well, just kind of sticking for a second with the whole memory thing. I've never had to put it into words like this until this conversation, but I'm actually realizing as we're talking, like, I think that's one of also the main draws to why I make my music so personal. It's trying to keep those memories alive. So my ex, who I'm best friends with, one of my most popular songs of all time is a song called One Day I'll Be Fine. And in the video of that song, it recounts our whole relationship leading to the breakup. So I actually, in the video, and she's still kind of mad about it to this day, but in the video, I hired an actress at that point that I felt looked like her when we were dating. I have in the video, she's wearing my ex-girlfriend's shirt. So it's like her shirt is actually my ex-girlfriend's. There's a point in the video where I'm reading a letter to her as she's crying. That letter is a real letter that she wrote me, and I kind of zoom in on the letter. And the whole video, we're kind of just doing everyday mundane things that we used to do as a couple. And so I think that's why it's become one of my most popular videos, because so many people find it relatable, like it feels real, and that's because it was really me reliving the times with my girlfriend at the time. And for for almost a year, my ex-girlfriend didn't talk to me because of that video. She was upset about it. That brings us back to the conversation of finding the balance. Like, is it worth putting it out there because it's going to hurt this person? Um, Slowly but surely, she's realized that it wasn't much about like exposing us or anything against her. It was honestly my closure that I needed of the relationship. But it was also me, like I said, keeping that memory alive. We may not be dating anymore and our relationship is fully different, but because I can now put on that video, I can relive that anytime that I want. And it's there, it's tangible, it's something that I can see or I can hear. So thank you for letting me see that through a conversation, because I've never actually thought about it that way. But I've realized I think that's why I love music so much, because I can put on a song or a video and it takes me right back to that memory and it's solid proof that it happened. So it's a big thing. Yeah.
So you write the music you write because a feeling, an emotion, something that a person,
Right.
you have to express your feelings or emotions about a situation.
Right. Yeah.
And so all of your music, every song you've written means something to you personally. So every song you write is about an experience that you went through.
Right. I wouldn't necessarily say every song. Like, of course, there's songs that aren't as deep. Like I do have, of course, as I mentioned, I always try to make things entertaining. So with that being said, because Kalvonix is a character in some ways, there's the party songs, like there's the Hips Don't Lie, where speaking Spanish to a Latina girl and she's dancing with me. I haven't necessarily had that real experience in real life, but I think it's my love for that romanticized feeling I feel when I watch a movie. It's like I'm putting myself in that situation in my video. So if it's not a deeply related experience that I've lived, it's at least something that I've watched, whether it's in a movie or in play out in real life with people that I know, and I try to put it in my own world, if that makes sense. So it's always relating to me somehow, but it might not always be directly an experience.
So you talk about movies quite a bit. Would you like to be able to write a score for a movie? If someone came to you, an indie producer, and said, I would like you to write the score for the entire movie, is that a challenge you would accept?
It is definitely a challenge I would accept. And I'm happy to say that on a smaller scale, I've already done that. So it is actually, his name is Javier. There's a movie he did. He's a smaller movie director, but he had that movie actually is available on Amazon Prime right now if you search it up. And in the credits of the movie, you will recognize my voice because it's me. He heard a song of mine on YouTube, um, that he connected with. He thought it sounded really cool, and the and this is what I mean by connections, never being afraid to make connections. The singer on the song, like there was a featured singer that I had on the song, and that featured singer, her aunt works in the movies. And because of that connection, she really liked my music, and so she suggested me to the director of the movie when he was in production. And once he connected with the music and he loved what I was doing, he asked me to do kind of like a soundtrack song for the movie. And so he gave me ideas of the movie and like what he wanted me to incorporate in terms of, the themes and things like that. And I was able to put that together, and thankfully I can say now I have one of my songs on Amazon Prime, which is really cool.
Very interesting.
Yeah.
That seems like something that you would want to bring up just kind of first and foremost when people talk about writing or your music. It just
Right.
that seems like a huge feather in your hat.
Right.
Where can I find this movie? I mean, what's the name of this movie? How can I find what you contributed to the movie?
Yeah. So the movie is called Road to Ithria. And it is I'll definitely I'll send you a link to it as well once we're done. But yeah, you can find it on Amazon Prime. So if you're subscribed, it's on there. And then the very first song you'll hear once the credits roll, you'll hear my voice right away. So you'll recognize it. And I'm really proud of that. I guess, yeah, it's weird because I guess my mind doesn't work that way where I'm rushing to tell somebody all that I've accomplished. I'm always just wanting to see where the conversation goes organically. So I've loved the questions you've asked me because, like I just said a few seconds ago, like you've made me see things in a way I haven't really thought of before. And I think that's always how my mind works. I'm not rushing to say all that I've done. Like now that you've said that to me, all these things are flooding into my mind right now of like all that I've done. So like for example, like one thing that just came up in my mind is like in 2010, so this was a long time ago, I was in grade 12. My cousin, or no, not my cousin. She's kind of like a friend of my cousin. She's an event planner for Vancouver. And so when the Olympic Games was here in 2010, she asked me if I wanted to perform. And she said it was going to be at least 12,000 people if I did perform. And I was like, I was like, sure, why not? Sure, let's do it. Let's try it. And so I performed. And at the time I had a high school rap group that consisted of two of my cousins and a friend, and we actually got the chance to perform. And what's wild is that within the crowd of those 12,000 people was a producer named Chinnen Jetty. And Chinnen Jetty won a Grammy for his work on Eminem's 2010 album Recovery. So what's wild about that story, though, is the week after the performance, the event planner, so my friend, she calls me and she says, Calvin, Chinnen Jetty wants to meet you. And he has a studio. He has two studios, I believe. One is in Vancouver here and one is in LA. And so he wanted me to meet him at his studio in Vancouver. And so I was able to do so. I brought my friends with me in my rap group. We went to his studio. And I remember I was knocking on the door of the studio and he turned around and he's like, "Are you Kalvonix?" And then I said, when I get nervous, my voice gets really high. So I was like, yeah. Right. And before he can shake my hand, he took his crutches off the wall and he crutched his way to me. And that's when I found out in real time that he was on crutches like me. And he, I don't know if he has cerebral palsy. I think he has polio, which is a little different. But the fact that I see somebody who is disabled physically like me working with people like Drake and Eminem and Lil Wayne was really, really validating. And of course, I was 17 at the time. So I thought when I met with him, I was like, he's going to sign me. I'm going to be so famous right now. I remember thinking that and being a little disappointed when that didn't happen. But I was able to perform in front of him in the studio. And the most full circle, or not the most, but I'd say one of the most full circle moments of my life thus far, so far, was Chinnen Jetty actually played some of the beats he produced for Eminem's upcoming album. At that point, it wasn't out yet. So he played some beats he did for Eminem before it was out, and I got to hear it early. And that felt very full circle because I was like, man, it's because of Eminem that I'm doing this. So now that I'm sitting in front of somebody that's worked with him was very, very, very rewarding and such an incredible feeling.
So, in other words, you're saying take every opportunity to perform or to create in front of people, no matter what.
Exactly. I truly believe, I think at the end of the day, that's my main thing. I'm not necessarily looking at it like, where am I going to be in 5 years or I want to do this. I'm always just doing my thing. And while I'm doing my thing, I'm improving. And because I'm improving, I'm making connections. And because of these connections, I'm getting more opportunities. So, for example, even talking with you right now, like this happened because I connected with Harkos and Music Making Sense. And like, I find it a little wild because even talking with someone like you right now who is nowhere near me, we're having this really cool conversation about all the stuff I've been doing. And once again, I'm taking it back to the 12-year-old me rapping on my grandma's tape player. Like, this is happening because I started right over there. And so whether it's big or small, I see these opportunities as like, I'm doing something right. So I just got to keep going.
Well, any opportunity is something you should take full advantage of.
Mm-hmm. For sure.
And I think a lot of artists don't see it that way. A lot of indie artists don't see it that way.
Mm-hmm.
And that it bothers me because I think so many people are missing out on they're so focused on what they're going to do in 5 years or where they see themselves or where they see their career or their music. They have this goal over here. And
Right.
if you don't contribute to this goal, if you're not helping me along, I don't need to waste my time.
Yep.
And
Yep.
I think a lot of people are missing out just having that attitude towards music.
Just to add to that, I think I think the big part of what you're saying has a lot to do with what I talked about earlier in the celebrating the small wins and being in the moment. Because I think artists are so focused on the end goal that they don't realize their progress in the meanwhile and all the small things that are working towards that end goal. So I think at the end of the day, like I said, I don't really view an end goal. I kind of just do my thing. And in some ways that's worked as a benefit for me. But I think just to use actually just a quick example, like when I was going to school in university for English, I was going to school alongside my best friend. His name is Rick, and he was going to be a high school teacher. That was his goal. He raps sometimes, not as good as me, but he raps sometimes. But he wanted to be a high school teacher, and he uh he was so focused on the end goal of being a high school teacher that I found that there were some days where something amazing would happen where, for example, when I went on tour to the different high schools and I talked about rap music and trying to encourage students to find their version of rap music, I was on tour with my friend Rick because he at the time was a slam poet, and I found a way to kind of incorporate my rap with his poetry, and we went on tour together. And he was so focused on the end goal of being a teacher that when we eventually won top 25 under 25 in 2015, it's like he celebrated it for a second and then it was like, okay, on to the next. What do I have to do next? And there was so many times I remember in university where we sat down drinking our coffees because as a university student you're always drinking coffee, and yeah. and and so many late night conversations where I actually remember telling him, like, hey, man, you got to take a breath and you got to smell the roses. Like, you got to really take in all that we're accomplishing right now because not everybody does what we're doing. And it took those conversations for him to kind of slow down for a second, be like, you know what, you're right. And I think there's that relatability there with how I see a lot of artists are operating these days, where kind of like what you mentioned, they have that 5 year plan. Um, but because everything in their mind is going towards the 5 year plan, they don't realize how much progress they've made in that 1 year. And I think that's the biggest difference with me because I don't have that 5 year plan. I'm not saying you shouldn't have a 5 year plan. I think it's important for some people, of course, to have goals like that. But because I don't necessarily work that way, it's really allowed me to see whether it's big or small, all of the amazing accomplishments along the way.
So you appreciate every win, no matter
Hmm.
how small.
Exactly. Yeah. Yeah.
Because a question that I do like to ask is, what is the top of the mountain for you? Where do you see yourself in 5 years? It's a question that a lot of artists know the answer to. Maybe they don't know how to phrase it, so
Right.
they'll kind of think for a minute, but all artists have a goal.
Hmm.
And all artists can say, you know what, if I reach this point in my career, that's the top of the mountain. But it kind of seems like maybe you don't dwell on that, or maybe I'm sure you've thought about it, right?
Right. Yeah, for sure. For
So,
sure. Yeah, I think you're right in the sense that I don't think about it as often as maybe other artists do. Um, but I think if I'm just wanting to put like a tangible idea out there of what it looks like to me optimally in terms of what is the top of the mountain for Kalvonix, I think it would be for me to have everything done in-house, meaning kind of like how I said, how I really enjoy the fact that I get to collaborate with my best friend Jeff on our videos and we get to do all the videos together. And I really like that process. I've talked to Jeff on numerous occasions on my dream is to like eventually have a house where I can build myself like professional recording studio, and I have like a set team of producers, whether they're my personal friend group or people I have connections with, where I have easy access to like beats and ideas where I can continuously just create. So I'm in a way doing that already, but I think my end goal would be to do it in a way where like it's not just like a bedroom that I have right now where it's just like it just looks like a bedroom. I hope one day I can have like a professional recording studio built and I can just kind of live in that space and create, because I think at the end of the day, my favorite part of this whole process is the creating part. And so for me, the top of the mountain is being able to have steady money coming in. It doesn't have to be money where I'm living solely off music. It doesn't have to be that to me. It just has to be steady money coming in like it is now. And I'm able to have a professional space where I can go to and fully flesh out my ideas.
So your full-time job pays the bills, but you're making money off music at the same time.
Yep. Mm-hmm.
What are you putting that money towards that you're making? And I know you said earlier that you have a separate account to save up um, for the videos and for things like that.
Mm-hmm.
Do you have an account, or do you keep a certain amount to the side to create that dream that you just spoke about, the studio, the professional space? You spoke of it so eloquently that you thought about it so much. Are you putting
Mm-hmm.
a little bit aside just to kind of pad that account, so you kind of have a little separate account over here?
Right. No,
This
that's exactly yeah.
account, you got another little account,
Yeah. Yeah.
a
No, that's
dream.
exactly it. That's exactly it. I literally, I'm kind of obsessively writing on there's a piece of paper that exists that have all of my music money and where it's being allocated and what is what and where goes where. So yes, uh every time I get money coming in from strictly music, so streaming, or maybe it's like a show I did where I got a little bit of money, all of that goes to the same place, and I put some of that aside. Some months, depending on how big the check is. So some months it's bigger than others. So if I have a big one, then I'll put more to aside for that dream studio vibe. And then on some days too, even from like my work, if I worked a ton of overtime in my 9 to 5, um sometimes if I can spare it that month, I'll put a little bit aside of that towards the studio and where I want to be in tech in like 5 years based on my music. So I'm always slowly working towards it. I think that's what keeps me going, because it's like I don't necessarily have like a specific goal in mind of where I see myself, but I think I know what I want. I know that at the end of the day, I will be the happiest version of Calvin if I have a professional space that I can do my thing and nobody bother me. Like I just want to be in my own world. That's the dream.
So you're working hard every day to accomplish that dream.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure. Yeah. And I think, like I said, I guess I was looking at it very I don't know the word for it, but like when I first started making music, like I said, I all I could think of was there's the not famous Calvin, and then there's the famous Calvin where he's doing tours. Like that's it. There's no in between there. Um, but I've slowly realized, as we've been discussing about all these smaller or bigger things that has happened, that has kind of just shown me that, like, how do I say this? Like, I guess one of the questions you asked previously was like, do you feel like you said it in such a way where it was kind of like, is my disability holding me back because I shy away from like the live shows because of like my asthma disability? Like, yes, I think of course there is a part of me that feels like if I didn't have that anxiety, and if I didn't have that asthma, and if I didn't have a disability, I probably would be more active in the live show, and maybe my name would be more out there than it already is. But I believe in, and we don't have to get like overtly, I'm not even saying this as a religious thing. I'm saying that I really believe that life comes in balances. And so because I can't do this, so in this example, because I can't do live shows, I'm really good at creating shorts out of different things and keeping engagement that way. And so I really believe that, like, with everything that falls short to the typical artist in terms of like not being able to perform, or even in my videos, I feel like because of my disability, I'm very stiff in how I move. I'm not as fluid as a everyday person doing movement. So I'm not able to get rappers say get lit. We like to get lit, right? I can't really get lit in my movements because I'm very stiff. And so I think that's why I think that's why one of the answers I could say to Harkos when he asked me, why do you have so many pretty girls in your videos? Well, it's because I can't do all those cool movements, so I need to have people doing movements to keep that part of the engagement there. So I very much believe in the beauty of like collaboration, which is I think is a testament to everything that's been able to happen with my music so far. And as long as I'm able to do that, I think I'll be satisfied and fully actualized.
Well, it seems you put an awful lot of time and effort and thought into your music videos.
Mm-hmm.
Do you think that all that time, effort, and thought is paying off? Or do you feel like it's paying off when you look at views on YouTube or what people tell you outside of social media?
Yes, I think it's paying off because for me, um, like the most important thing to me, or one of the most important things to me, is for somebody to put on a video of mine and be like, more often than not, be like, oh, he's good. He knows what he's doing. And I think that's why Harkos and I have kind of started talking more, because it's like I noticed, I mean, not trying to shit on anybody else that submitted their videos to Harkos' podcast, but I noticed right away when I started submitting, more often than not, he would showcase my video at the beginning of his podcast every week. And he started to talk about me more, and I realized like I actually had this conversation with Jeff about Harkos like a couple weeks back, where it's like, yo, I'm now at a spot where like I'm one of the quote unquote more professional ones when indie artists are submitting to podcasts, because back when me and Jeff started doing videos, we kept comparing what we were doing to another indie artist that we felt we wanted to get to. So for example, there's a rapper in Toronto. He goes by the name Russell. He used to go by the name D Pride, but he's a Filipino like me. He raps like me, and he loves Eminem like me. So I very much compared myself to him, especially in those early days. And a lot of his videos, every time he dropped a video, me and Jeff would sit down and we would be like, okay, what is he doing that's making his videos pop that we're not doing? And we would analyze it. We would spend hours just watching countless videos, trying to find inspiration, figuring out what makes a video interesting. And I think it's those hours and time put in that has allowed me to finally show a video and people are wanting to come back and rewatch a video. I think that in itself, the fact that Harkos even like recommended like having a conversation with you, like that's just because my videos have only gotten better. You know what I mean? So I think because of that, that's just like, of course, I think the time has been worth it.
All right. Well, we're running up against the clock here on the Zoom.
Hmm.
So I'd like to ask you what I ask all artists.
Okay.
What are two questions that you've never been asked that you wish someone would ask you, and what are the answers to those questions?
I think one question is, what would you be doing if you couldn't rap anymore? And the answer to that, I think I would remain in the arts because I'm just an artsy fartsy guy. Um, I when I was 12 years old, because of my love of movies, I went to acting school. That's something that I don't really talk about at all. And I took like some summer classes, and out of the 20 people in my class, the way it was set up is like at the end of the summer, agents from, various companies will come in looking to sign new talent. And so if they felt like people were good enough, you might get signed on the spot right there on that last day. And of the 20 people, 5 people got signed, and I was one of the 5. And so I remember being like, "Oh man, like maybe I can do this." So my dream was to become before rapping, my dream was to become an actor, not only because I love movies, but I still have a huge crush on Hilary Duff, Disney pop star Hilary Duff. I have her tatted on me, and I wanted to do a movie with her. And I think what derailed me back then was I was too young to not take things personally. So when I didn't get a part for a role that I auditioned for, I took it personally. And I remember one day I asked my mom, I said, "Mom, if a role was meant for a character that's not disabled, do I have a chance at all to even audition for that role?" And because my mom doesn't know much about the industry, and especially back then, this is like 2003, she didn't really know what to say to me. And I think because of that, and she's continuously saw my heart breaking every time I didn't get a role, I got pulled out of it. So she just told my agent one day that I don't want to, like, I'm not going to do this anymore. And I was too young to fight back and be like, "No, mom, I want to do this," right? So I think rapping has made me so happy that I've really just focused on the music aspect, and I've been able to do some acting in my music videos. But I think if rapping was taken away from me, I would definitely try harder at my hand at acting. That's where I would be, because I'd love to do that. And the second question, is a tough one. I guess one question that nobody's asked me before, and it's funny because you figured somebody would. It's not that deep, but a question is, how did you get the name Kalvonix? Um, and I'll just share that now. So, one of the in 2000 from like 1999 to 2003, I was the biggest wrestling fan. So I love WWF. I watched it religiously. And I kind of fell out of love with it when it left the Attitude Era. So the Attitude Era was kind of my vibe with the Stone Colds and the Rocks and the Undertakers. And when I found rap, like when I started to really get into rap and wanting to become a rapper, one of the bigger stars that was on the rise was John Cena, who was a wrestler, but he also rapped. And I guess I was just easily jealous back then, so I hated John Cena. I was like, "No, John Cena's not good. I don't like him." And so I was jealous of him. And one of his catchphrases was like, "Word life, this is basic thugonomics." And my cousin, the same cousin that gave me the Eminem CD back in the day, we were on MSN. For any of you youngins listening, MSN used to be what we used to use to talk to people online. And I left the computer keyboard in the middle of our conversation because, like, I think my mom called me for something. And so because I wasn't answering his question, whatever my cousin was asking me in the conversation, he was like, he kept calling me random names. So he kept like spamming me with messages saying, Calvin, Calvon, Calvatron, Kerma, Calvinon. And then all of a sudden he's just like, Kalvonix. And I come back to the computer and I'm like, Kalvonix, what the hell is that? And he was like, oh, I was thinking of like, John Cena, basic thugonomics, Calvin, Kalvonix. And so it's not deep at all, but I find it I sound like an EDM artist, to be honest. But I find it really funny that I'm named after somebody that I couldn't stand back in the day. I love him now, but I couldn't stand back in the day. And it just kind of stuck. And now everybody, including my mom, doesn't call me Calvin. Like everybody calls me Kalvonix now. So it's just become part of my identity. And it's not, even though like if I was given a chance to change my name, I'd probably want to think of a cooler name than Kalvonix. I don't know, but it's just such a big part of who I am now that I don't think I could ever change my name. You know what I mean? So
Well, it's catchy.
yeah, it's catchy. Yeah, for
And
sure.
I actually planned on asking you earlier about the name Kalvonix, but we were talking about everything else, so I
Right.
brought that up.
Yeah, for sure.
All right, well, man, I have had an absolute blast sitting
Me
down
too.
talking to you about your music and about your art and finding out all this other stuff about you. So we're kind of up against the clock here. So where can people find out about you and find your music and your videos and all your social media?
For sure. Yeah, so I'm on all major streaming platforms, Spotify, Apple Music, Kalvonix, Kalvonix. And yeah, it can be confusing because my name is Calvin with a C, but Kalvonix is with a K. So just don't forget the K. Um, but I'm also, yeah, I'm on YouTube. That's where all my visual stuff goes. So all the shorts I make, all the videos I make, it's Kalvonix Music, all one word. But if you type in Kalvonix, you'll find me as well. And I have a Linktree. So Linktree/Kalvonix. That's where you'll get links to pretty much everything: YouTube, Spotify, Apple Music. But I also have Medium, which is where I post not regularly, but anything that I feel inspires me where I want to write about it, you can read my writing there. So any like jotting for song ideas or just the strong feeling I'm feeling, I'm on Medium. So just type in Medium Kalvonix, you'll find me. Um and yeah, that's where you can find me.
All right, guys. Well, I hope everyone enjoyed this sit down as much as I did, and hopefully we can get Kalvonix back here pretty soon, and maybe I'll have a few more questions for him that he's not ready for. But
Sounds
I
good.
really enjoyed this, man. I had a great time. I'm glad I found you on Music Making Sense podcast, and I've enjoyed watching your music and your art mature over time.
Thank you, man. I appreciate it. And likewise, I really appreciate you having me on. Like I said, I celebrate all of the wins. And for me, this is a win to just have someone that's passionate about talking with artists. The fact that you're willing to talk to me and you had a good conversation means a lot and blows my mind as well because like I said, I'm now thinking back to the 12-year-old me who didn't know what to say to anybody. So the fact that you're willing to sit down with me for over 2 hours, that's longer than Terminator 2. That's a long movie. And yeah, I had such a good time. I got asked questions that no interviewer has ever asked me. I think your questions are very in-depth and like honestly forces like kind of like not only do interviewers not always ask the most thought-provoking questions, but I also feel like it's hard to get into the conversation if you feel like the interviewer is just asking for the sake of asking, just like they're just doing a job. I genuinely felt like we were having a real life conversation, just shooting the shit, and that just made it a lot easier for me to come up with answers that meant something.
Well, that's what I want. I don't want the simple Q&A where I ask
Right,
you the same questions someone else is asking you, because that's no fun.
right,
And
exactly.
any of your fans that watch this, they're like, "Oh, I guess he's going to be asked, how'd you get into music?" The
Right,
same question.
right, of
Um,
course.
I I want to know, because I've sat in so many bars in this town and talked to artists, and you know, I want to know something more than, "Oh, how'd you get into music?"
Right, right,
Where did it, because that's boring.
right, right. Yeah, I agree.
I kind of want to drill down a little bit because I'm very curious and
Mhm.
inquisitive. And you might give me an answer that was like, "Oh no, I want to know a little bit more about this." So when
Right,
you finish, I'm going to kind of drill down on that.
right, right.
And
Yeah,
I'm just,
totally.
I don't know. The creation of music seems so foreign to me.
Mm,
So I'm gonna ask you questions that maybe somebody else wouldn't ask you because I can't create music. I would love to be able to sit down and
right,
write a song or produce a video or do something along the lines of music creation, but
right.
I can't do it.
You
So
can't do it.
I can ask questions. So
Right.
I
Yeah,
figure, let me ask questions
yeah.
about music. So
No, that's awesome. And that makes for the best interviewers, right? The people who are curious and like actually want to know, what's going on. I really felt that. It was just a very genuine conversation, which I really appreciated.
all right, all right. Well, until next time.
Eminem, don't act like you don't feel that vibe. Sexy lady, those hips don't lie. What have I got you into? Sexy lady, those hips don't lie. It's you that I'm into. Those hips don't lie. Move it, girl.